very shallow. His Holiness says that in reality, these people who are on a higher pedestal, they are more worthy of compassion than the so-called downtrodden or fallen people. The fallen people are already fallen. Because they are fallen, they are downtrodden, they have less probability, they have less jealousy or less competitiveness because they have nothing to compete and nothing to be jealous, you see. Whereas those who are on the higher pedestal, they look great with their good costumes and looks and decorations, but deep down they have so much jealous, so much competition, you see. So many levels of negative emotions. So therefore, they are creating a lot of suffering and problem. So therefore, they are worthy of compassion. So our compassion should apply to everybody. Okay? So that's what the text is pointing. Meditate on the great kindness of all sentient beings. Practice the combination of giving and taking. Okay, so therefore, develop that compassion. So therefore, today, it is my task and responsibility to repay the kindness of the mother and give her all needed benefits and protect her from all the harms and what is not beneficial. Because the mother sentient beings are not able to take care of themselves. They think they are able to take care of themselves, but in the true sense of the term, they are not able to take care of themselves because of the strong negative emotions within us. Like for example, if there is a mad person, a lunatic mad person, if you try to help that mad person, the mad person will say, "I'm fine." No, you are not fine. You are sick. You need to go to hospital. No, I'm fine. I don't have to go to hospital. I'm very happy. You see, the mad person will do like this. It's not the case that that person is fine and healthy and happy, but because of the lunacy, he doesn't know what is happening with him or her. So there's a kind of insanity, as I said, there is a kind of insanity and lunacy with all of us. And therefore we are not able to take care of ourselves in the proper sense of the term. So therefore, you with your spiritual knowledge and Dharma knowledge at least have some idea what is good for the long run. So therefore, you should come forward and say that today is really my turn to benefit and help you in every possible way. So this leads to the question that if mother sentient beings are harmed, what is the harm that they are receiving? They are directly received by all kind of sufferings, and indirectly they are harmed by the sources of those sufferings. And what are the sources of those sufferings? The sources of sufferings are afflictive emotions, wrong actions. Afflictive emotions and wrong actions, they are the causes for the sufferings that you encounter. So long as you don't get rid of the causes, you cannot reap the fruits, the sufferings. So therefore you should meditate and imagine that I will take upon myself all their sufferings and all the sources of their sufferings. And at least in the meditative state, you should imagine that all the sufferings and all the sources of sufferings of other sentient beings are taken from them and put upon myself. Just like by using a sharp blade, you take out all the darts. So similarly, imagine you take out all the sufferings and sources of suffering from other sentient beings. Bring it to yourself. So that is called practice of exchanging oneself for others. That means you take their sufferings upon yourself and you give the best peace and happiness, compassion and love, everything to the mother sentient beings. Now, with this practice, you need to be a little bit careful. Some people, they feel very uncomfortable. If I bring all the sufferings upon myself, oh, I am burdened completely, I am overwhelmed. You feel uncomfortable. So therefore the text says it is not like destroying you. You bring all the sufferings, the problems, and put it on the self-cherishing attitude. Because you wanted to banish that self-cherishing attitude. So when you overwhelm that self-cherishing attitude with sufferings and the sources of sufferings, then imagine that your self-cherishing attitude is destroyed. You are not destroyed. The self-cherishing attitude is destroyed. Your negative emotions are destroyed. So it's a beautiful practice, very beautiful practice. Okay. So then you should think, that now I will offer all my, not only I will receive all their sufferings and unpleasant experiences, but I will also offer all my good things to them. That is, offer your body, your wealth and enjoyments, your virtuous practices. Without expecting anything in return, you give it. You give it. Now for such practices, you can start by doing some small practices like giving something for those who are in need. Of course, you should do all these mental exercises, which is really great, but in terms of actual practice also, there are many who are much less privileged than you, so you should offer whatever you can to those. That is very, very satisfying, and you will really get some sense of achievement by doing that. It's not easy in the beginning because we want to get everything but don't want to give anything. That's our attitude, you see. Even there was a very famous Tibetan Buddhist teacher who was also in the beginning very stingy like all of us. It was very difficult for him to practice any giving. So he used to take one thing. He wanted to do the practice, but he could not do. So he used to take one thing from the right hand and give it to the left. And take one thing from the left and give it to the right. So then gradually he was able to give it to other people. So practice makes man perfect, you see. And then there was another man who later also became a very good practitioner, but in the beginning he was fond of stealing. So one day he was invited in a family. So when everybody was out, he wanted to steal some tea. So he put his hand in the tea bag. So as soon as he put his hand in the tea bag, he realized the mistake that he is making. So immediately he used the left hand and tied the right hand, which is in the tea bag. Then he started shouting, "Thief, thief, thief." When the family members came, then what they saw was his right hand in the pouch, in the bag, being tied. See, that's how they practice. That's how they practice. So therefore, it's important to, because at the end of the day we have to give everything. Shantideva says, since you have to give everything one day, reluctantly, why don't you give something now out of your choice? You see? Now we have the choice. And with choice, with free will, if we give something, it will benefit others. You will collect merit. You will get satisfaction. You will make a meaning of your life. But in the end of the day, at your deathbed, when you're dying, when you have no control, you have to leave everything. That's not giving. It is living. It's living. It's not giving. So people will just take it whether you give it or not. So therefore it is better to give it much in advance. Okay? And then similarly you can visualize that your body transforms into a precious jewel or a gem, and you make an offering of it to all sentient beings and they get whatever they need. And it's a mental exercise. You can do that. So that precious jewel then becomes a facility for doing dharma practice, for giving food, for giving clothes, for giving houses, for giving servants. So in this way you can imagine that you are able to offer everybody whatever is their need. You are not losing anything, but mentally you are doing that exercise which is really like preparing you to be able to do the actual practice. And in this way, when you gradually get used with that practice, then it is said that even if you are to give your body, there is no problem at all. But now, right now, not forget about giving the body. Even giving something small is very difficult because we have this grasping. Because you have this identification of yourself with the body, with the possessions. So it's very difficult to give. But gradually, when you realize everything like an illusion, nothing to be objectified, you see, then there is no grasping, no craving. Then even giving one's body is, one of the texts says, even giving your body is like giving vegetable to some other people. Okay, so there will be no problem at all. But right now, it will be difficult, but we need to start doing the practice. So in this way, preceded by the practice of loving kindness and compassion, you should do this practice of giving and receiving. Giving and receiving. What you are giving is all the good things. What you are receiving is all the bad things. Okay? Is it possible to do this practice? Shantideva gives a beautiful explanation of this by saying that if you practice continuously, then a time will come when when you see others, you will see them like yourself. How does a mother see the child? She is able to see the child as herself. The mother is ready, ever ready to sacrifice herself for the child. That shows that we have the capacity to do that. That shows that we have the capacity to do that. So if we train our mind, we can do that. We can do that. And he gives a very convincing example by saying, they look at your body right now, your body. You call this as your body. And you look as much as you can, you look after it. Okay? You call it your body. But he says, are you sure this is your body? Are you sure this is your body? Shantideva asks us this very pertinent question. Are you sure that this is your body? Of course you will say this is my body. But you look at the source, the origin, from where this body came from. It's from your parents. So it is their part, their body, not your body. But since you got it, and when you said, when you affirmed, this is my body, and now you have no problem thinking that this is my body. And you take care of full, as much as possible, you take care of it. So similarly, just as you have taken the part that comes from your parents as yourself, as your body. So similarly, if you train your mind, you can think others as yourself and take care about others as you would take care of yourself. And that is not actually doing a self-sacrifice. Actually, that is the best thing that you can do for yourself. That is why His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that if you want to be wise, if you want to be selfish, be wisely selfish. Be wisely selfish. Our ordinary way of being selfish is stupid way of selfish because we think only about oneself, forget others, and the end result is we don't get what we want. So the wise way of being selfish is that you take care about others. The more you take care of others, the more you will benefit. Like for example, in Israel, if everybody thinks about their country, the community, the society, and keeps it clean, everybody contributes their part, Israel will shine out. If everybody thinks, oh, it's not me, somebody else. Oh, it's not me, somebody else. Oh, it's not me, it's the government, So the country will fall. You see? So everybody has to make their contribution and play the part. So in the second session you should think, again having meditated on loving kindness and compassion, you should think that when I was cultivating bodhicitta, I had offered my wealth, virtuous practices to sentient beings. So therefore I will alone do the work of fulfilling the benefits of sentient beings. I will alone. That means you will not look after supporters. You see, that's what we do normally. When more people are doing, you also feel like doing. When nobody is doing, you don't feel like doing. That's not the way. If it is something good, if it's something that must be done, you do it. You do it, even if you're alone. You do it. Like for example, the food you take, the breakfast you take. When you take the breakfast, do you see whether others eating or not? If others eating, you will also say, I don't eat. Do you do like this? When it comes to your food, whether others are eating or not, you will eat. You will not say others are not eating, so I will not eat. You will eat. Because this is important. This is something that must be done. Therefore you do it, whether others are doing or not. But when it comes to serving others, helping others, normally, when it's for the common goodness, normally we see whether others are doing or not. If they don't do, you also don't do. If they do, then sometimes you join them. That's wrong. When it's something that must be done, when it's something that you think it's good, you must do it. Single-handedly, if nobody is coming forth, no problem, just do it. And that actually will inspire many others to do it also. Okay? So that's what he's saying. To do it single-handedly. And then when you do such practices, your mind should be filled with joy, because now you are able to benefit and help others. Even after you become a Buddha, the only job that he has to do is help and benefit others. So you don't have to wait until you become a Buddha. You can start helping and benefiting others right now, which you are going to do even when you become a Buddha. So you feel happy that I have this rare privilege. Okay. And you should begin by taking from yourself. You should begin by taking yourself. That means when you talk about taking the sufferings of others, first you begin from yourself. That means you should imagine that sufferings that you are going to experience tonight or tomorrow. Imagine that you are taking that upon yourself, on today's self, so that tomorrow you have no problem, no suffering, no difficulty. And likewise, when you practice giving, you imagine that you are giving good things for your tomorrow's self, the coming self, so that the coming self has peace, happiness, and good things. And then you do the practice with other sentient beings. That's what he's saying. Begin by taking from yourself. These two should be made to ride on the breath. That means when you, as I said, as you already did the practice, when you breathe out, imagine that you are giving your love, affection, and goodness to others. When you are breathing in, imagine that you are breathing in the sufferings, troubles, shortcomings of the sentient beings of the whole world. Okay? And then put it on your self-cherishing attitude and destroy it. So that practice is for to help you cultivate bodhicitta easily and to train your mind and to destroy many of the discursive thoughts. Concerning the three objects, three poisons and three virtues. That means during the subsequent stage of the meditation of conventional bodhicitta, when you relate to the objects, you will be relating to three different types of objects. Okay? A pleasant, good object, unpleasant object, neutral object. When you encounter a pleasant object, you develop attachment. The three poisons arise. When you relate to the three objects, the three poisons arise. That means when you relate to a very pleasant, attractive object, you develop attachment. When you relate to an ugly object, unpleasant object, you develop anger, disliking. When you relate to a neutral object, you develop ignorance. So in this way, three poisons will arise. So when such things, when attachment, hatred and ignorance arise by relating to the objects which is attractive, not attractive and ordinary, then you should train your mind by thinking that just as right now I am developing this attachment, similarly in the whole world there are many who are controlled by attachment. And then realizing that, you develop compassion towards these sentient beings. And then imagine that you are taking away all their attachments and put it in your heart on the self-cherishing attitude. And imagine that now they are without attachment. Instead, that attachment is replaced by a virtuous quality. So similarly, you should think about the other negative emotions. Okay? Just as I am angry and have hatred right now, there are countless sentient beings who are having hatred. So imagine they develop compassion and imagine that you are taking away all their hatred and anger, and they are now without anger, without hatred. Okay? So that is the meaning of concerning the three objects, three poisons arise, and then you transform it into the three virtues. So the correct translation, the meaning translation of this line will be something like, when three poisons arise with reference to three objects, they should be transformed into three virtues. Okay, when you say concerning the three objects, three poisons, three virtues, it doesn't make much sense. Okay, it may be a literal translation, but doesn't make much sense. The instruction to be followed in brief is to take these words to heart in all activities. So that means not only you should visualize this, but in order to strengthen your practice, you should also repeat these lines. That's what he is saying. The instruction to be followed in brief is to take these words to heart in all activities. It doesn't say take this to heart, but the text says actually repeat this in words. Repeat this verbally in all your activities. Okay? Because language plays a very important role in influencing your activities. For example, you can undertake this mind training verbally by saying that may all the sufferings of sentient beings ripen upon me. May I am able to offer all my good things to all sentient beings. So in this way you should repeat that and then mentally of course think about that. And such kind of repetition, if possible, should be done when you are alone. Do not make a show of your practice. Sometimes we are very fond of showing our practice. We do a lot of practices when people are around, but when nobody is around, nobody does any practice. Okay? So the real practice has to be done by the mind, not by the word or the body. Any questions?
You mentioned the three poison, and can you say which poison transforms into which virtue?
Attachment is transformed into non-attachment. Hatred is non-hatred. Ignorance is wisdom or non-ignorance. Okay. Any other questions? Yes?
So you described three situations. One, you're like, this is the object. One, you're attached. One, you reject.
Yeah.
And one, you are not
Neutral.
Not neutral.
Yeah.
So this is ignorance.
Yeah.
So what kind of relationship you have to have with the object?
With the neutral thing?
What if it looks like this is not good, this is not good, and this is also not good. So what kind of relationship you have to have with the object? Let's say it's even a human being.
Very good, very good, very good.
Everything.
Yes, yes, very good.
Like in the space.
Exactly. This is very good question, very good question. Because many people...
Say the question again.
Yeah.
The recording. Repeat the question.
She is saying that if you have to maintain this relationship with these three objects, no attachment, no anger, and also like with the neutral object, no ignorance, then how would you maintain relationship with anybody? Because when you maintain relationship, this kind of things come in the ordinary relationship. So therefore, this is a good question, because what the Buddhist teaching says is, you can maintain a better, purer relationship without attachment, without hatred, and without ignorance. Much better relationship. This is important to understand. Therefore, your question is good. Because many people ask this question, especially, for example, in marriage relationships.
Yes.
Okay, in love affairs.
Love, yes.
Because people
so
think
where
exactly.
starts the
People
love in this place?
people think that unless you have that attachment,
So this is love.
unless you have attachment, how can you make love? That's what people think. Because even to feel love, yeah. Because people think that love means to get one with that object, to get obsessed with the object. Obsessed maybe not good word, but not obsessed, but one with the object. Put obsession with on one side, yeah. One with the object, you see. Okay? So if there is no attachment, how can you love? That's what many people think. But the Buddhist answer is, there is a thing called unconditional love. There's a thing called unconditional love. Not only Buddhist teaching, but even some of the wise people, they say, love is not how many times you touch each other, but how many times you reach each other. You see? So ordinary love, we think that, love means there should be attachment, there should be a lot of touching and hugging and caressing and things like that. But the one with the wisdom says, love is not how many times you touch each other physically, but it's really how many times you reach each other mentally. Mentally, how you care about that person is the real test of the love. The ordinary love Now, since you've asked this question, let me elaborate this point. In the ordinary love affair, people say, I love you so much that I